Boom! Friday it is.
How are you today, Josh?
What now?
How are you today, Josh?
Oh, wonderful. Thanks for asking. Yeah, I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm doing great. I'm feeling a little bit self-conscious. So I was
Why?
on a Zoom call the other day with a business partner that I have in New Zealand, and he was throwing some shade in my direction because my camera was not as crisp as some other people's.
Yeah, I hear you, man.
And I mean, I don't. Oh, you think? I mean, first of all, I have a face that's not made for HD. So I feel like I'm doing everybody a favor. But also, like, this is a 2-year-old laptop. It's not like it's some dinosaur. It's the built-in. I mean, doesn't everybody just use the built-in camera? Or are you on a desktop? Are you at your home on a desktop using
I
the?
I don't own a desktop. I have a
Right.
laptop.
Who
I
owns
have
it?
a laptop with two screens on either side of me, and I'm looking from data from side to side. Yeah, I mean,
Right.
look,
So who? Number one, who owns a desktop anymore? Who? So therefore, who uses an external camera? And what do I do if all of a sudden I am? It has kid fingerprints on it. Yeah, don't I wish? Let me see if I
I
can wipe
mean,
that off. And
just
it's
clean
in
it, dude.
there.
Yeah, just
No,
clean. You're good.
no.
You're fine. Okay, look, we're gonna start calling you Low Tech Judah. It's all.
Oh, that is great.
Gosh, dude, I am so. It was so difficult for me to make notes for today's show.
What shirt are you repping there? I'm repping Slade.
Ah,
You're
Twisted
a
Misfit.
Twisted Misfits. What? Tell me about Twisted Misfits.
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So listen, I mean, the back of this thing is even better. It's a teddy bear with stuffing coming out of its guts. It's
Nice.
fantastic. Yeah, Twisted Misfits is a jiu-jitsu club that I was involved with. I mean, this is probably 8 years ago now, but I love this T-shirt. I can't. Yeah, like I would replicate this T-shirt and get a new one print. Actually, that might be a business to remake your old T-shirts. You know,
I mean,
hey,
there's all kinds of
no
copyright infringement there, and all kinds of other legal challenges you're going to run into. But you know, if Napster can get away with it, I'm sure you'll do just fine.
Oh, come on. I mean, copyright infringement. Like, this was made up by one of our members. Like, so come on.
I know, but if that's your business, you're going to have people sending you stuff saying, "Make me this T-shirt that is a copyright infringement," and then you're going to get in trouble.
Judah, where you see obstacles, I see opportunities. No, I know you're right, though. I know you're right. All right, listen, let's jump
This
into.
is why I'm not a criminal. Like it just doesn't pay. Like
Oh,
just
that's why.
do the right thing. Do the right thing because ultimately, you know, you end up getting caught. It's one of the things that frustrates me the most when I was taking my mortgage broker's license and my mortgage lending license and real estate licensing and everything like that. They're like, if you do this racial act, what's the punishment? If you do this wire fraud, what's the punishment? Is it $10,000 or $5,000 or is it $1,000 and a year in jail? And I'm just like, I'm just not gonna do it. Like, I don't care what the punishment is. I'm not participating in illegal activity. How about that, my answer, Mr. Test Grader?
Oh man, good for you, Judah. I'm gonna put a gold star on the top of your paper
I
today.
know. I'm a Boy Scout. It's
Well, look, let's get into this because I'm we're prepping and we were talking about this today.
dude. I love this thing that you sent me, by the way, so that we can
Wow.
stay on track. And I agree with everything. And let's take this because we've got to get started on the news of the day because it is tons of it.
Yeah, so today's show is brought to you first, Judah. You get started by Slade House Group. Tell us a little bit about Slade House Group and what you guys are doing.
Slade House Group is a full service real estate company and a property management company. We were founded by investors for investors. We are a tech company that operates in the real estate space.
Love that.
So, fortunately, with all the shutdown and everything like that, we have leaned so heavily into technology for so long that this really didn't slow us down very much. If you are looking to buy a rental property or sell a rental property, if you're looking to buy a primary residence property or something like that, or you know somebody who is, our technology works equally well for all those services as well. So we want to be your full service real estate provider. Buy, sell, manage. Give Slade House a call.
Awesome. My name's Josh Weidman. I'm with Hard Money Bankers. I run our Central PA branch here. We lend in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, Northern Virginia, and Washington, D.C. Got some exciting news. We just got hooked up with an affiliate in Pittsburgh, so we have not been lending. Pretty much not. We've been lending as far west as Cumberland County, but we've had some restrictions just on what type of properties and things we can do in western part of the state. And now we're lending in all of Pennsylvania. So if you've got a place that you're looking, or a project that you're looking to have funded anywhere in Pennsylvania, or surrounding states, give me a call. You can reach me at 717-213-8488. We are a direct lender, which means that we lend our own money. We make quick decisions. We can be a little bit creative with some of our finance terms and things, and we can close very quickly. My phone has been ringing off the hook, and that is kind of where I wanted to start our conversation today with, I know we got some news with Governor Wolf in it, and that was like the first thing on my agenda as we were talking, Judah.
Yeah.
But I think that we got to talk about housing data because, man, for the last week, I was like bored because nobody's calling me. I feel like everybody forgot my name. This week, I'll when I'm done with the show here, I'll bet I have 15 messages. My phone's just been ringing off the hook with people looking to do refis, looking at new projects. It seems like unrenovated properties, there's a lot more sales of pre-construction homes happening, and I think people are getting some confidence a little bit with what the housing market is looking like. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think that we're going to see an uptick in number one, distressed properties coming on the market because people want to sell. So let's say grandma gave you a house, unfortunately when she went on to meet her reward, and you've been sitting on it. It was free and clear. You pay the taxes for a while, and you've always been thinking about fixing it up and selling it. All of a sudden, you're a service manager at an HVAC company that was laid off and then back to work. And now they're looking at, scaling back business, and you're not 100% sure what's going on. You've got a nice, medium level white collar job. You've got this asset that you always knew you were going to flip and rehab, but when you got around to it, but you just never did. So you're going to sell that property now.
Well, and
so there's a lot of people who aren't necessarily in distress, but they're in stress. And that like extra property that they've just been hanging on to, intending to rehab and sell, they're now just gonna sell it, at a discounted price and let it go.
So in tandem with that,
I also think that you're going to see a whole lot of people who are looking to buy or sell in foreign markets. So I have a lot of people right now who are looking to buy in Pennsylvania because it is a great market to buy. But I also have a lot of people who are looking to sell their Pennsylvania-based rentals because they're like, you know what? I'm based here in Ohio. I just want to stay here in Ohio. Between this shutdown and now these riots, like I just now understand how important it is to keep my chickens close to my own, roost. And I would rather just, be a little bit more insular. So they're not necessarily panic selling, but they are selling, and maybe they don't want to sell properties that need rehab. So there's a whole bunch of good, medium, and bad reasons why there's more opportunities showing up on the market.
Do you ever play chess?
Yes.
You ever play speed chess?
Oh, it's hard, but yeah, I mean, yep.
I think we're going to put a timer like that on speed chess for how long we can each talk, and we'll like hit the. Dude, I'm just joking with you. I'm sorry. All right. So I'm looking at housing data here. Dude, May had the highest average listing price that we've had in the history of the country. 330,000 average list price for new listings. Crazy number.
Yeah.
In addition, volume is down year over year, like 22%. So I mean, it's kind of a mixed bag with housing. So I mean, like, please.
Yeah, I was just going to say, but that's I was reading this one of the stock analysts that I read, and he was talking about Zoom, and Zoom beat expectations, but it's hard to know what expectations are right now because the analysts who set those expectations are dealing with all kinds of positive and negative news that's conflating and canceling each other out. It's the same way when I'm trying to set rents right now.
Yeah.
So owners ask me, Judah, what's my house going to rent for? I'm like, I don't know. Pre shutdown, this is what it would rent for, but I don't know. There's a lot of stuff that's propping up the real estate market right now and the rental market. There's a lot of stuff that's dragging on it right now. It seems like they're canceling each other out, and it's hard to say what's going to happen.
Well, and you get
here's let me say it this way, Josh. I'm sorry to interrupt, and I know that I'm going over my timer here on this, but like, let's say there's 10 houses that could be sold, right?
Yeah.
And these houses over here are worth $500,000, and these houses over here are worth $200,000. If for whatever reason the $200,000 houses don't get listed and the $500,000 houses do get listed, the average goes up, but really the value of each individual house just stayed the same.
Well,
so you've got to watch these individual month over month trends of how, because of when housing medium home prices of listings goes up or down, because it could be an isolated incident that just that price range experienced more listings at that month. Does that make sense?
100%. And I think that what we got to look at more than anything, and one thing that I saw is like a recurring theme in every single article that I was reading through, is that it's about local markets. Because I mean, you look at there's a lot of these iBuyer programs that are coming back. Opendoor just announced that they're reopening 5 different markets where they're going to be buying, doing this virtual sales, or not even virtual, but remote purchasing and sales. And, in some markets, that's real dangerous. But then in others, it's really consistent. Then you look at like rent collection numbers. I mean, that's on my list here. In some markets, rent collection for June dropped 50% from May. From the May 1st collection rates dropped 50%. And in others, it rallies and it's higher than it was last month. So it's like, I don't know that there's even a rhyme or reason for it, but it goes back to what you just said about people selling properties that they're not local to. If they're out of state owners, they know what's happening down the street on the rental that was that inherited house, but they don't necessarily know what is happening in that house that they bought across the country, where, you know what I mean? That like they don't know what the local market looks like, even if they have all the data. It's just so conflicting. You really have to be in it and involved in it.
I would 100% agree. And I think that's one of the things that we talked about early shutdown. Remember, we were talking about Airbnb and how they're collapsing. And I said, I don't know, I'm seeing a huge uptick in Airbnb. And I'm seeing a huge uptick in demand for my Airbnbs. And so I think that it is a very, very much a market by market thing. Look at the comments blowing up, Josh.
I know, it's awesome. I love it.
You throw some shade in my direction, and everybody wants to pile on.
Listen, I just wanted to say I was goofing around there, and my joke fell like not the way I wanted it to come off. So excuse me.
I'm very self-deprecating in my humor. Like and here's you want to know the worst thing, Josh? This is me trying to keep myself on an internal clock.
Dude, I know.
Take me to a bar and get a couple drinks in me. If you ever just want to sit and listen and not be burdened by conversation and not be burdened by saying anything, buy me a gin and tonic. That's the other thing, is I'm a very cheap date. Like, it does not take much.
All right, so let's talk about some good news in housing, right? I mean, we talked about like the uptick in pricing and things like that. I've been watching the mortgage market very closely because I think that
because you're in it.
What's that?
Because you're in it.
Well, not just that, but because it's so closely tied to housing. Without the mortgage industry working like it's supposed to, none of the housing market works. Well, forbearances dropped 34,000 forbearances. 34,000 homeowners came out of forbearance last week. That's a big deal. That is a good looking trend. But what I don't like is that 9%, almost 9%, 8.9% of all of mortgages are in forbearance. Like all of them. That's a lot.
Yeah, and I think that what's crazy about that number is it doesn't take into account on that's just the numbers of forbearances. It doesn't take into account delinquencies, which is 30 days,
Yeah.
and serious delinquencies, which is 60 days. I don't know why they don't just report them as delinquent, or 30 and 60 days, and then also 90-day NODs. 90-day notice of default. So
Right.
default is 90 days. Seriously delinquent is 60. Delinquent is 30 days.
Yeah.
Delinquent is not, 5 or 10 or 15 days behind. Delinquent is 30 days. So you've got those three tiers that stack on top of that. Who knows what those numbers are? Probably, another 5 to 10% each.
Yeah.
We're seeing a lot of negative news in the mortgage world right now.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think that kind of goes hand in hand with our jobless claims. I mean, I put something on my Facebook page this morning, and a little cartoon. It's like, the emperor has no clothes, but
Yeah, I love that, by the way.
yeah, thanks. You got this guy whispering to somebody else, and he says, I know, unemployment's a mess, but look at those housing prices. Aren't they beautiful?
What is the unemployment? I mean, I saw the headline, but I did not see the the story. Macy's biggest job increases ever, as 2.5 million re-enters. So what are we at here? So non-farm payroll, right?
Here's what we got. We got 21.5 million continuing claims.
Right.
We have an additional it's just under 1.9 million new jobless claims last week. What's really important there is that, well, really important. I mean, they adjusted last week's numbers up, by another like 600,000 jobless claims. So these numbers, we're getting them, but then they kind of disappear, because then next week we'll talk about the new jobless numbers. But
right.
What really is disappointing to see here is that in a couple areas of the country where you would think that the jobless numbers would be dropping, specifically Florida and Georgia, where they have essentially returned to a somewhat normal economy, they're not. Their new jobless claims are not decreasing at the same type of rates. I mean, Pennsylvania is sitting pretty. Like our new jobless claims are 71% lower than like the 5-week average. So I mean, that's a pretty good deal. It says it says a lot about where our state is compared to the rest of the country. But it's just, I think there's a lot of concern here. I've got a lot of concern about coming out of this thing and how long it's going to take to absorb the unemployment. But
so look at this now. Again, these are government predictors and things like that, and economists. But last month the unemployment rate was at 14.7. It was expected to go to 19.5. So it was at 14.7, expected to go to 19.5. It actually went to 13.3. I mean, that is that's great news, though.
13% unemployment.
I mean, okay, and I hate this term, in the new normal, I think that is good news. It shows that we are moving in the right direction, and I think that we're only going to see those numbers continue to move, because people aren't just looking for a job; they're looking for excuses to get out of their house. They're looking for excuses to do things.
Great segue. I mean, this could be a holiday, right?
Right.
The stay-at-home order is lifted on the entire state of Pennsylvania as of today. There's still restrictions in place in a number of counties, including Lancaster and Dauphin and Lebanon and where we are. But the north central part, a lot of the western part of the state is in green. You can go to the gym, you can get your hair cut, go out to a restaurant and sit down. That's a good thing.
Whoa. Whoa, whoa.
What?
Get haircuts as of today?
Not everywhere. Not
What
near
about
us.
Lancaster County? Dude,
No.
brother needs a haircut, man.
You need a buzzer. You get
Yeah, no, 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 I don't want to shave it off. Yeah, I need, yeah, all right, I'm gonna look into that.
well, it's not yet. I mean, that's the whole thing. We're still in yellow, but in green counties, you can get your hair cut. You know, if you want to take a drive, you could probably get there 20 or 30 minutes. It's not too bad. And that's one of the concerns. Like that's one of the
I
concerns.
only trust Angie to cut my hair. There's one girl who cuts my hair, and I can't wait till I get a haircut. We'll be talking about it here on the show.
All right. So some of there's been a handful of businesses. I don't know if you've seen this, but there's been a handful of businesses, specifically restaurants, that have opened, like diners and stuff like that, that have opened before they've gotten the state okay,
Right.
that have really gotten a lot of whiplash or crackdown from the state. Their licenses have been either revoked or suspended, and I mean, it's crazy what's happening, especially now that we're getting to the point where things are reopening. You would think that, look, you would think that maybe there'd be some forgiveness there and just move on, but it doesn't sound like it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, so this is the problem, right? Like, while we're protesting and why we are literally burning cities down, because we're coming to the understanding that government doesn't treat its citizens right or appropriately.
Yeah.
The same people who are saying that are also those that are supporting the government in shutting down and locking out businesses. Well, guess what? I mean, those citizens are being treated inappropriately by government too. The reason for my hesitation is even coming close to equating, how government abuses its people. Be they unarmed black men or be they be business owners, they are both feeling at differing degrees 100%. There's not even I hesitate to even make the comparison.
Well,
but the theme right now is government abuses people. Vote for small government. Maybe.
Okay, so Judah, you just did something that is so exemplary of this whole conversation. We across the country. All right, so the biggest point of news over the last week by far is the protests and rioting that have been happening across the country. It's really likely that President Trump just lost the November election because of what happened this last week. And you Judy, you might disagree with me. I don't know, but I'm so sick.
I'm not saying how I vote. I'm not saying how I vote.
It's fine.
Not saying how I vote, but I am telling you right now, I disagree.
Fine.
I think it was cemented. I told friends of mine early on, I don't think Donald Trump can lose. And it was shortly after he came down the escalator. I said, I do not see Donald Trump losing. I'm going to tell you the same thing again right now. Nope.
So here's this has done something's happening right now in the country that is so valuable. However, it's surrounded by so much junk and noise that it's really hard to see through all of the clutter and chaos. And that is, since this country started, we started with a discussion on what government should be, what it should look like, what it should do for the people, right? I mean, the idea of small government, that's one side of the argument. The idea for large government, that's another side of the argument. But I think everybody can agree that right now, our government has way too much power. When you can have a cop that sits on the back of somebody's neck and kills them on camera with like people watching all around, and nobody steps up and gets and like pushes the cop off of there because of the power of the police, that's a problem. When you have governors shutting down businesses across the country and business people literally not being able to go to work, and when you have politicians in these cities across the country that are criticizing business owners for standing out in front of their business with a gun, but they're encouraging protesters to burn down buildings, we have a problem, like across the board.
Yeah, it's like 1964. I remember being in high school and learning about everything that happened in 1964, and I was like, wait, that happened in 1964. Wait,
Yeah.
that happened in 1964. Oh my goodness, that was going on in 1964 too. People are going to look back and study the year 2020. It's going to be a hugely transformative year.
It's in less than a year ago. I was investing in West Philly, right? And there is a, I don't know, 4x4 block section of the city that that is much newer. Excuse me, 4x4 section of West Philadelphia that's much newer than all of the surrounding houses. And I started doing some research into this area because I couldn't quite figure out why. Well, it turns out that during the 1960s, the city of Philadelphia and the FBI bombed the area because their Black Panther Party was holed up in some of these houses and burned down all the homes. Like, that's the kind of stuff that's happened. Like, that didn't happen because some skinheads wanted to go out. That didn't, you know what I mean? Like, this is a government. And it just blows my mind what's going on in this country. And
I get your point. It wasn't the skinheads who were attacking the black people. It was
right.
the government, right?
And it wasn't some protest group that was burning down the community. It was the government, you know, and like that kind of stuff is happening right now. And like the government's not going and burning things down, but I mean, you look at the controversy right now with Donald Trump holding that Bible and like all of the gassing and everything. The government has too much power when any politician can, you know, gas a group of people so they can get a photo shoot. And that is not a commentary on Donald Trump. That is a commentary on government in general. Like, I don't know. Please.
No, I agree, man. It's just, it's so polarizing. What frustrates me so much is I really like discussing these topics, and I really like discussing these topics just passionately.
Yeah.
With what I think and what I feel, and also what my point of view is. And I think that it's very frustrating because you piss off anybody. You know what I mean? You piss off the people who think that the rioters are totally wrong, and you piss off the people who think the rioters are totally justified. And no matter what you say, and everybody's clamoring for a national conversation and a national discussion. And you get two words out of your mouth and they say, shut up, I'm offended by what you just said. Well, if you want a discussion, you're probably going to be offended. I mean, it really, I see people on Facebook all the time saying, I think Donald Trump is the greatest, or I think Donald Trump is the worst. And if you disagree with me, just go ahead and unfriend me now. Well, that's part of the problem. Like, if you post on Facebook, if you don't like it, just unfriend me. What you're saying is, I can't have a conversation. I don't actually want to have a conversation. I'm not interested in a conversation.
Yeah.
No one knows how to disagree anymore. Yeah, you're exactly right. You're exactly right, Taz. And I listen. I have very strong political beliefs. I have very strong religious beliefs. And they are the two things that I love discussing more than anything else with people who differ from me, because I enjoy the art of debate. I enjoy the discussion. And I think that that's what we have to do and get back to, is actually be as a society where we can say, not Republican versus Democrat, but liberal versus conservative. You know what I mean? And those, here's why I like liberal philosophy, or here's why I like here's why I like conservative philosophy.
Judah, I got to even cut you off there. I think that even going and dividing everybody on those lines, you miss sight of really what we're talking about. Like, we're human beings, all of us. I don't think that there is anybody that you can talk to that would look at what happened with doggone it. I can't believe I can't remember the guy's name. It's George Floyd. Excuse me. I'm sorry. My brain went blank. But like, nobody can look at what happened with him and say that was an okay thing. That there is anything okay about that. Right. I've been so frustrated and upset with the way police treat constituents, regardless of color, for a really long time. I mean, I think there's tyranny there. But I don't think it's the police officers themselves. I think it's the institution behind it. And like right now, you have a lot of these local municipalities they're talking about defunding police departments. If you think that's going to make things better, you're wrong. I mean, that's not going to help at all.
Yeah, that's definitely
I'm sorry, man.
Yeah, hey, listen, it's a live show. We're allowed to have slips. Yeah, it's very challenging to come up with solutions that are going to be better than what we have. And there's a reason why we've ended up with a lot of the institutions that we have. And I completely agree that there's problems and there's challenges. I also think that you throw out the baby with the bathwater when government is a bully, but getting rid of that bully is only going to introduce other smaller bullies. And I agree. Just the label strictly conservative or strictly liberal is inappropriate because my mother had 4 sons and I am the most liberal of them. And people who know me say, no, Judah, you said that wrong. I say, no, my mother had 4 sons. They call me the statist of the family.
That's funny. That's really funny. So, yeah, I mean, I think this is such a difficult conversation, but I think it's one that has to be had. And frankly, I think it's exciting that we're having it.
Right.
As long as we can have a reasonable discourse about not about who's wrong, because I think there is plenty of blame to go around on a lot of different sides, but about how do we move forward and how do we get the power back in our hands to make those decisions and not, I mean, like, I think like every time a politician makes a law, it has more unintended consequences than it has benefits.
Whenever any people do something, remember, man is not perfect. Yeah. It's why it's the founding philosophy of the conservative movement is man can't be perfected. Earth won't ever be perfect, and therefore we need to have the government that does the least is governs the best. And the other philosophy on the other side is that we can make everything perfect, we can dictate everything, we can manage everything, and things can be perfected. And that's, man, I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, but I mean that's part of the problem with the outrage over this is because perfection can't be the goal. There's always going to be the bad cop who does the bad thing at the wrong time. And to think that our police forces are awful or evil because of it, just.
I'm not trying to demonize the cops. What I'm saying is that the institution of government puts people in situations and trains people into situations where they feel threatened or they feel in a position of authority when maybe they shouldn't feel that way, and vice versa. It puts individuals, citizens, in a position. I mean, let's be honest. Like you see, I don't know if you see these on your Facebook feed, but I see all kinds of stuff where people are people with dark skin are concerned when they get pulled over by the police, even if it's a legitimate traffic stop. I mean, and you see, like, I can't argue with that. I totally can't. And frankly, I can't relate to that. Like in my personal life, I can't relate to that. But at the same time, I see the injustice that's happening on an individual level, and it just blows my mind. I see where cops, where police departments make up authority where it doesn't exist.
Okay, yeah. So here's what I would say to you. That feeling of scared, that feeling of being judged, that feeling of being pressured because of the color of your skin, and that is totally unfair. I've heard police officers say that they feel the exact same pressure and the rush to judgment against them, that they're automatically in the wrong because of the uniform that they wear.
I agree with you.
So like, prejudice is prejudice, whether you're prejudiced against somebody because of the color of their skin or you're prejudiced against somebody because of the uniform that they wear. You've got to look at the individual people. And I love that we're having this conversation, Josh. And I think that what's important about it is, silence on these issues is no longer going to cut it.
Yeah.
And I've always tried to show respect and deference by being silent and just going about my job. And the problem is that stepping out and actually saying something has a lot of potential for blowback. And
Yeah.
I think that we need to show a whole lot of grace to people when we agree with 40 or 50 or 60, well, maybe not 40, but 60 or 70 or 80% of what they say, and not try to cancel people because of 20% of what they say. My fear that this is on the other side of this is not that we reignite the coronavirus. My fear on the other side of this is that we see an uptick in cancel culture virus. That's been a problem.
Yeah, that's a fair comment. That's a fair comment. And I think also I've had this conversation with my wife at length. I think that when people are angry or upset at someone else, they often default to the meanest and worst thing that they can say about them. And sometimes that comes out as a racial comment. Sometimes that comes out as saying something that, derogatory towards somebody else about, their.
That's interesting. Yeah, they're not necessarily a racist, but they want to say the meanest thing they can think of,
And it doesn't mean a racist statement. It just means,
right.
You know what I mean? Like it's just a terrible thing. It doesn't make it any better. It doesn't make it any nicer. It just is. It's a hard conversation. I know I'm kind of.
And I think the other problem is it's why you always have to guard yourself, right, Josh? Because adult language coming, PG-13. Here we go. If I call you a son of a bitch and you call me an asshole and then I call you a bastard,
yeah.
Wait, who started that conversation? All we know is we both need to apologize to each other.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so if you can bite your tongue and suck it up, and that's what Gandhi fought for. That's what Gandhi fought against a very racist British government, and won by taking the high road. Martin Luther King ushered in the civil rights movement by taking the high road. I think that we as individuals, we as groups, we as a nation, we need to always recognize that there will be people racing to the bottom. And if we can hold ourselves to a higher standard, that you're not going to be perfect, but at least you're not going to have as much to apologize for or feel bad about, ultimately that's a better place to be in. I failed, but I failed while daring greatly.
If I've learned nothing over my 41 years on this planet, it's that when I'm angry or very emotional about something, I should hold my tongue. Because at the end of the day, even when you say something that's not, a red ball, that isn't the worst thing you can say, you're not saying necessarily anything that's constructive.
Right. I got to tell you one thing that's been very helpful to me. So I in sales, I love phone calls. I love face-to-face meetings. You know what I mean? But there are people in my life who I have to deal with that are challenging on my intestinal fortitude and well-being to keep it together.
Sure.
And we won't say anything more than that. And it's helpful that that relationship is mostly text-based, because I can decide what I'm going to say or not say. I can decide just to politely not respond. You know what I mean? But the lesson there is, so texting forces me to cool my head. I think that if we do that in our interactions with people, if we force ourselves to take a breath and cool our heads. What's that?
Put a filter on.
Yeah. Taz, would love to have a conversation with you off camera too. Josh says that you are an awesome guy, and he loves. I've heard a couple stories, so yeah, Taz, we would love to have a conversation with you too, man. And thanks for your support. And Taz, like, as awkward as it is, thanks for being a black dude, giving some love and support to two white dudes as we try to handle a very thorny topic for white men everywhere, and understanding that we're doing the best we can.
That's right. That's right. I mean,
Jude is a guy with no filter. I got to tell you, somebody sent me. I was in a totally unrelated text conversation messenger with some friends of mine today, and my one buddy said, "Judah, he went there." That'll be your tombstone or the name of your biography.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, we're all human beings here, and I think everybody would agree that at the end of the day, people do the best they can. And it might not really be the best they can at the moment, but it's the best they can, given the circumstances, given their background, we just do the best we can. And sometimes that's all we can ask for. That's it.
All right, guys, listen. Thank you guys very much, Brandon. Love that you loved listening to this discussion as well. And we went a little bit longer than normal. We went a little bit heavier than normal. And sometimes that's what happens on the Friday show because we talk about the news and current events. And we talk about the news and current events on Friday so that we can stay focused on content throughout the rest of the week. We had an awesome interview yesterday with Eric Brewer. And Eric made the comment, geez, without even trying, and you guys didn't even prep it this way, but we didn't even talk about this shutdown or COVID or anything like that. And that's the thing is, this is not the discussion of the riot show. This is not the discussion of COVID show. This is a real estate show. And we do that Monday through Thursday. And then Friday, we talk about current events as it relates to real estate. And if you want current events to change, guys, do your part to change current events.
That's right.
And we'll talk about happy news if and when there is some, if Josh allows me. I tried to talk about some happy unemployment news today, and Josh tried to be negative Nelly and put the negative spin on it.
I know. Look, I'm pessimistic on the housing market, or not on the housing market. I'm actually optimistic on the housing market. I'm pessimistic on unemployment. It makes me sad to see people unemployed. It hurts all the way around.
100%.
Yeah. All right. Have a great weekend, Judah. Thanks a lot for another great week.
Absolutely, guys.
Thanks for the comments. And hey, look, if you enjoyed the show, like and share it, and encourage your friends to watch. See you Monday. Take care.
See you, everybody.